Hello everybody, welcome back to J Movie Talk. This is episode 347 and I will be talking about the movie Happy Gilmore 2. That's how I'm kicking off August, talking about good old Happy Gilmore 2. That was not the original plan, but because it's a newer release and since I don't really do too many newer release films, I thought, it'd be good to do a new release film, right? And I decided to do it with Happy Gilmore 2, just because it's lighthearted. It's nothing too serious or anything like that. And I noticed that I haven't really done a lot of lighthearted, type of movies in recent. So yeah, that's another reason why I decided to talk about this movie. And I am a huge fan of the original. So watching this movie and kind of with nostalgia purposes, because I actually watched the original first and then I watched the second one, just for purposes of, doing this podcast and everything like that. So real quick, Happy Gilmore, the original film, has always been, a movie. It's a sports comedy movie. I feel like it's one of the movies that really elevated Adam Sandler back in the 90s when he was, really in movies that were big, and at least for him, his movies that were big and everything, because you have Billy Madison, all these different type of movies that he was doing. But I feel like Happy, even so, a little bit more so than even Billy Madison, I think is one that whether you really was an Adam Sandler fan or not, you kind of knew about the movie. Most so, like I say, Billy Madison, I feel like it's more of a niche thing for his fan base, whereas Happy Gilmore, because it's a sports movie too and everything, I think you had more people watch that. I could be wrong on that, but just from how I've always seen it and everything or whatever, I always felt like Happy Gilmore was the movie that really, elevated him to that next level once he left Saturday Night Live and everything. So the fact that this movie is pretty much a 30-year sequel, which we have been getting quite a bit of those in recent and everything. This movie had a tough job of being a legacy sequel, and pretty much how does it play to a new audience? And for me at first, I wasn't really... I was like, well, okay, he's doing Happy Gilmore too. I was like, oh, okay, well, let's see how that goes, and everything. But I have to admit that I was actually surprised, and once I really got into watching the movie, I actually was like, you know what, this is actually, it's not bad. And one thing, if you someone who watched the original film, the core, motivation for Happy even becoming a golfer was to save grandma's house. That is it at the core. And, and then with this movie, it's all about, family and, redemption and dealing with grief. And so there are things that are layered in this movie. And I will say this, the Happy Gilmore that we see in this movie, he's been through a lot over the years and everything. And they try to masquerade it a lot in with comedy and stuff like that, but if you kind of peel back those layers, it's like, okay, yeah, this man has been through some things and he just wants the best for his family, really, and everything. And I will say that the way this movie pretty much, it kind of goes back and forth between being a modern comedy and also full of nostalgia. Because I would say, don't go into this movie blind, whereas, I didn't watch the original, but I'm going to watch this one. No, don't do that. Because if you do that, you're going to be lost on a lot of the callbacks and jokes, because there is a lot of callbacks and jokes going back to the original movie. So I would suggest, if you do plan to watch this movie, that you should at least watch the original first and then watch them. Because there are some people who, for whatever reason, the original is too old. I don't have to go back and watch it. It's like, huh? So you just gonna start with a sequel, okay? Even though I am someone who have done that with certain movies, but the difference is that I watched the sequel not knowing that there was a first, and this is when I was a kid. So a lot of times, stuff might, slip through the cracks. But if you're an adult and everything, why are you gonna just start with the sequel and not watch the original and then get upset because I didn't watch the original? But I started with the sequel. That makes no sense to me. But whatever. So real quick, just how I feel about this sequel, and everything. I actually enjoyed it because, for one, I didn't go in with a lot of high expectations, and you pretty much know what you're getting when you watch an Adam Sandler movie. If you don't, then that's more on you than anything. I mean, he's gotten to a point where, and I don't knock him for this, he's gotten to a point where he pretty much makes movies with his family and his friends. And then he also, with his friends, he likes to incorporate a lot of his celebrity friends, and everything. But also at the same time, he throws in some, little life lessons in there if you're really paying attention to any of that. I mean, he doesn't beat you over the head with it, so it's easy for a lot of it to kind of go over your head or miss it completely. But if you do actually pay attention to it, you see what he's saying with a lot of stuff. And like I say, this movie does say it says a lot, but again, if you're not looking for it, you're not going to see it, and everything. And then as far as how this movie compares to the original, I mean, of course it's not going to be the exact same of what he did with the original Happy Gilmore, because I mean, we're talking about the late 90s. So you could kind of do a little bit more and say a little bit more and not really get any backlash, where here we are in 2025, where if you went with the exact same brand of humor, it probably wouldn't hit. But at the same time, it don't necessarily needs to have the same exact brand of humor, because like I said a little while ago, the Happy Gilmore that we see in this movie is someone that has aged, and he has a family. He has 5 kids, and they're all pretty much grown. His daughter is 4 boys and 1 girl, and they're all pretty much grown and everything. So we're talking about a Happy Gilmore that's pushing 60, so he's not exactly the same guy. I mean, he's the same guy, but he's not exactly the same guy. And there are references to that in this movie, and everything. I mean, yes, you still have some of the Sandler humor, but one thing about it, he doesn't do a lot of the goofy voice and everything. For one, his voice is a lot deeper, more gravelly now, so he can't really do a lot of that, with the little goof. But he tries to, but you see, like, yeah, he's not really that person. He's not so much over the top as he once was. And I think there are a lot of funny moments in the movie. And like I say, it's a Happy Gilmore. That's what it is. So you shouldn't try to take it too seriously. This is not, this isn't, no Broadway play or anything like that. You shouldn't take it overtly seriously, or whatever. And then 2, I mean, was this sequel really necessary? I would say no, it wasn't really necessary. But like a lot of legacy sequels, someone gets to think, it's like, oh, well, let's revisit this character and let's see where they are now in their life, and then kind of go from there. So it wasn't necessary really, but it is somewhat fan service to the people that are, still big fans of the original movie. And we are just kind of seeing, okay, this is what Happy's been doing for the last 30 years. And why he is in the spot that he's in right now is because of something that happened, like, in the movie, 15 years prior, and everything, which they go into it. And I was a bit surprised that they did that with a character, and I was a little disappointed that that character is not so much in the movie and everything, because that was the thing I was looking forward to. Like, okay, what is their relationship like now? And the fact that they pretty much got rid of that character to a degree fairly early on, it was like, okay, that's interesting. But it does motivate Happy as the movie progresses along. So even though I didn't like it, but there was a reason for it, and everything. So let's kind of talk about the cast for this movie, because not only do we have Adam Sandler, of course, coming back as good old Happy Gilmore, but we have a laundry list of returning characters and newer characters. So I'm gonna go through it and, like I say, just talk about the cast real quick. So, of course, like I say, Adam Sandler is Happy Gilmore. You have Julie Bowen returning as Virginia. Good old Christopher McDonald as Shooter McGavin is back. Ben Stiller returns as Hal L, which for me, I think that was like one of the biggest of seeing him return, because one thing about it, we don't really see Ben Stiller like a lot anymore. So whenever he returns or shows up in something, it's like, oh, okay, Ben Stiller is doing. So it's like, yeah, all right. And I feel the same way about Mike Myers. He's another one where, yeah, I mean, yeah, of course he's doing the Shrek stuff and everything, but you don't really see him in movies like that anymore. So whenever those two guys like show up in something, it's like, okay, it had to be something that, you know, pulled them back in, and everything. Now, I mean, this is where Adam Sandler kind of like flexes as far as getting his friends and people to show up in movies, because the fact that we have Bad Bunny, who I'm thinking, okay, he's just gonna be like a nice little cameo appearance from when we first see him, but then it's like, oh no, he actually has a major supporting part in this movie. And the fact that Bad Bunny has kind of turned into, you know, an actor and everything, because like the movies that he's showing up in, he's like, like, that's kind of interesting. What is he doing in Bullet Train? What is he doing in Happy Gilmore too? And then there's another movie he's supposed to be in. I should look it up to see. That's going to be coming out. Well, he was in the Fast 9 also, but I believe he's supposed to be. Yeah, he's in the movie that's going to be coming out here, I think later this month, Caught Stealing, with Austin Butler and Matt Smith and all them. It's like, yeah, Bad Bunny's kind of racking up a pretty decent filmography when you think about it. And then the actors that he's working with also, and everything. Now, this is where we kind of go into some wild territory, because the fact that they got John Daly, and if you know who John Daly is, he's a professional golfer, and he's somewhat of a wild man. You could almost say he's somewhat of a Happy Gilmore in real life. Everything. You got John Daly playing himself, pretty much. Dennis Dugan, who plays Doug in the original film, he returns. You got Haley Joel Osment playing a no good in this movie, which is kind of hilarious that he's kind of leaned into playing these kind of swarmy type characters now. You got Lavelle Crawford, who is representing Chubbs, because he plays Chubbs' son, and I like how they paid homage to Carl Weathers in this, and everything. And then, I mean, you get the family, of course. So you have Adam Sandler's wife, Jackie. She shows up. You have both his daughters, Sadie and Sonny, and everything. And it's interesting how neither of the daughters have any scenes together, but they have scenes with him, and the way he acts with them is very interesting, especially the way he acts with Sadie, who plays Charlotte, who is a part of his AA group in the movie and everything. But then Sonny, who plays his daughter in the movie, and how a lot of the motivation is regarding her and everything. And I thought they do a good job in the movie. I mean, they don't have big parts in the movie, but I feel like, and from something I saw where Adam says that he doesn't really want them getting into acting, but this is more of, a life lesson for them or whatever. So with him saying that, you kind of have to look at it in different terms of them always just nepotism in the movie. It's like, okay, no, he's trying to teach them something, I guess, and everything. But I thought their roles were pretty good in the movie as well. Then you get the rest of his sons, which I was surprised at. Now if you're a wrestling fan, you know exactly who this person is. And I'm talking about MJF, Maxwell Friedman, as he's credited as, and everything, which was surprising that he was playing one of Happy's sons. He was playing one of Happy's sons and everything. You got Steve Buscemi, of course, showing up. The first time we see him, and it's like, why is he doing this? And I'm not gonna spoil it, but it's just the fact that why does that have to be the first image that we see him and and everything? And then you get Kevin Nealon coming back as his character from the original movie. You got Kim Whitley here. You got John Farley, Eric Andre. Another surprise for me that someone who pops up in this movie is Margaret Qualley. It's like, because at first when I saw her, it's like, wait, she kind of looked like, I was like, oh, that is her. And it's like, what is she doing here? But I mean, that whole sequence with them and everything is kind of funny. You got Vern Lindquist. He returns, as I like to call him, the Jim Ross of this movie, because he pretty much reminds me of Jim Ross in a lot of ways, and all he needed was a freaking cowboy hat. Then you get Post Malone in here, and then you got a lot of the real golfers, because you had Fred Couples, you had Nick Faldo, Ricky Fowler, Jim Furyk, Sergio Garcia, Roy McIlroy. He has a pretty sizable, supporting part later on in the movie. They even got Jack Nicklaus to show up in this. And then Scotty Scheffler, and they also, joke about him being arrested in real life. They, and it's cool that he kind of leans into the, the whole joke and everything. You gotta have some type of humor about it, right? And so you have all these people that show up, but then you have Travis Kelce shows up. Now another really big one surprise was that they got Eminem to show up in this freaking movie. And the character that he plays, I'm not going to say the character he plays or whatever, but the fact that they got him to play that character, which is a throwback to a character from the original movie. Because it's like, what the hell? Because again, you don't really see Eminem showing up and stuff like this. So the fact that they got him to show up is like, yeah, that's Adam pretty much like flexing or whatever. Like, look at my friends and everything. Got John Lovitz showing up. Rob Schneider even pops up for like a few, like 2 or 3 scenes and everything. Like I said, the movie just riddled with a lot of cameos. You got Reggie Bush. You got Rebecca Quinn, aka Becky Lynch. Also Nikki Garcia, since that's what she goes, that's her real name and everything. Like I said, he just kind of was pulling basically anybody that he could get, he got in this movie. But the one person that I've wanted to, and I always wondered why that he don't get, even though this person exists in Happy Gilmore universe, and that's Tiger Woods. Now Tiger exists in this universe because the whole thing about him and Tiger supposed to be the 2 best golfers of modern era, especially of the 90s, and Shooter McGavin is 3rd behind him and Tiger and everything. And then even when Tiger, the closest thing to seeing Tiger in the movie is when Happy is walking through the trophy rooms, and you got the head bust of of like the legendary golfers. Tiger is one of them, but Tiger Woods is not actually in the movie. And the fact that the original Happy Gilmore came along at a time when Tiger Woods' career was skyrocketing, and with the large crowds and how a lot of people was, getting hyped and everything, seeing Tiger is similar to how what happens in Happy Gilmore and everything. It would have been cool if Tiger would have showed up, but I've always wondered, is it that he doesn't really want to be like, I don't know. I don't even want to assume why, but it would be something if they had got him to be in this movie, and everything. So, yeah, like I say, you have a lot of returning faces, and then of course you have the newer faces as well. And like I said, there's quite a bit of cameos that show up, and like I say, certain people that show up, it's like, oh wow, he got them to be in this and everything. Which, like I say, it's kind of it just shows like people like Adam Sandler. And like I said, you can say whatever you want about the man, but he's very unproblematic. He pretty much stays in his own lane, and he does his own universe, and he pretty much stays out the way and everything. And you can't really knock somebody for that. Whatever. But I think the movie does a very good job of balancing the slapstick stuff. And again, this is comparison of the original movie, which even with that, the slapstick stuff wasn't like beating you over the head. It was like far and in between. Yeah, you had things here and there, but it wasn't beating you over the head with the slapstick stuff. And this one, in a lot of ways, does the same thing. It doesn't beat you over the head with the over the topness of it. And in some cases, this one might have been a little bit more toned down than the original, dare I say, and everything. But there are some pretty decent heartfelt moments. I won't, of course, I'm not going to spoil it, because if you do plan to watch this, or if you have watched this, and everything. But for anyone who hasn't watched it, it is on Netflix. Both the original and the sequel are on Netflix, so I would definitely recommend checking them out. But there are some decent heartfelt moments in the movie. And like I say, a lot of it pertains to some of the personal issues that Happy is kind of going through within the movie. Now, since we talked about the comedy and stuff like that, now as far as the golf stuff, because I mean, at the end of the day, it is a golf movie. Now, I would say watching Happy here, as far as the golf stuff, where everyone knows he exists and he has been around for all these years, is a little different than with him kind of coming out of nowhere and people being amazed by what he was doing. Here it was like, oh, the return of the greatest T-ball swinger of all time, Happy Gilmore. And there are some nice moments, especially there's this one scene in the golf store where he's hitting, and everything, and everybody kind of coming around and watching and everything. It's a scene from the trailer, so it's not really a spoiler about this, and how he pretty much he hits the ball so hard it bursts a hole in the screen and everything, and it's like, oh, I'm sorry, and then it's like, yeah, everybody just cheers and everything like that. And then the fact that you get the real golfers involved in everything also kind of gives it a little bit more credit and everything. So yeah, the golf action in this, I think, might be even a little bit more better, because whereas the original, you don't get any of the real golfers like that, and everything, because Shooter was the biggest name as far as the tour was concerned back then, whereas here is like, no, these guys actually did exist, and yeah, and Happy is a peer to them in a lot of ways. So I feel like this one kind of gives it a little bit more credit than even what the original did. Now there are some comedy bits in the movie that I did enjoy. And then there's a few that was like, oh, okay, okay. It's like, all right, whatever. But there are a few. I mean, I would say one of my favorites is probably the scene with Happy along with Margaret Qualley and Eric Andre and the other guy, I forget his name. Where they're playing golf together. That is kind of funny. And then also one of the cameos that's doing that whole sequence is freaking Kelsey Plum, and it's like, what the hell is she doing here? And you don't really even know it's her unless you really look at her because of how they have her looking. It's like, unless you really know it's her, you won't necessarily recognize her, because most times when you see her on the basketball court, her hair is pulled back. So when her hair is down and the way they have it and everything, you don't really recognize that it's really her until you really like, oh, that is Kelsey Plum, and everything. But that is like one of my favorites in the movie. And then I'll probably say like the last sequence or whatever. That is some, I won't say well, it is kind of innovative because what they do with that last hole is kind of interesting. How the hell they pull that off? But that insane golf course that they own, it's like, good Lord, what the hell is this? But I thought that was pretty cool too, and everything. Now, do I feel like this movie pays homage to the original? I think it does. I feel like it's a nice companion piece to the original, which that's how I feel like legacy sequels should be. It should always pay respects and pay homage to the original, whether it's the original people involved with the legacy sequel or if it's someone new taking over and continuing on. It should always pay respects back to, why it even exists. And there have been some hits and misses when it's come to that, and everything. But I think Adam Sandler and his team, they do a good job of, honoring even a lot of the people that's passed away in the time frame that this movie has come out. Between the two movies and everything, everyone that's passed away, I like how they do, pay honor and tribute to a lot of them. To all of them, actually. I thought it was a very nice thing to do, and anything, and just in remembrance of them, give them the acknowledge, like, no, they're no longer with us, but they are still with us in spirit. I did appreciate seeing that part throughout the movie, because there are quite a few original cast members that have passed away in that time frame, and everything. But he remembered every last one of them, and everything. So, like I say, that I thought that was a very good way of honoring and remembering these people. And yes, there are a lot of freaking callbacks and references to the original. Hell, there's a lot of freaking flashbacks. But I understand why that was done, because if you, let's say you're someone, you watched Happy Gilmore, the original, but you don't go back and necessarily watch it to watch this one. So it's kind of like, okay, let me remind people. Or even if you're someone newer and everything, it's just, okay, let me just put the pieces together in a sense. So let me kind of explain why we're doing this flashback, or why this connects to the original. So I kind of get why he did that. I think some people did have issue with a lot of the flashbacks or whatever. I didn't have a problem with it. But I can see why a lot of people might have problems with it, and everything. And now, does this movie work for the newer generation? I think it does, because the whole premise and reasoning for Happy kind of coming back in a way, it is I would say it does take a shot at the whole the different golf leagues. You have the PGA, and then you have the Live league, and I feel like this movie does kind of take a shot and everything about the different golf leagues, and like how the PGA is the standard, has been around forever, and then they decide to, we're gonna make this new league and it's better and it's this, that, and the third. Granted, the Live League isn't over the top like how this league in the movie is, but I understand what they were going with, by this. And then to have people who you think are going to be a part of the PGA, and then they, well, you know what? I'm going to go join this new league because that's where the action is. I like how he kind of tied some real life stuff into it. If you're someone who don't really know the backstory of the whole thing with the PGA and the Live League, then I think you should understand. I think you would better understand like the whole thing behind the two leagues within the movie if you know the real life story. When it comes to the two professional golf leagues and everything. So I think it does a good job of kind of blending the old school with the new school, with some of the overtopness, but then also some of the throwback comedy stuff too as well. Now, where would I say that Happy Gilmore places within the Adam Sandler universe? I think it's up there. But then you have to kind of go through a lot of his movies, and that even includes the ones that he's not really in himself, but they are Happy Madison Productions. But I would say Happy Gilmore is probably, I would put it probably top 10, lower top 10, or whatever, and everything like that. So, because I think, like I said, I think it does a good job of paying homage to the original, but also kind of telling a new story all at the same time, and even potentially continuing a story. If he really wanted to. I don't know if he will or not, but you just have to watch and see, I guess, as time goes by, and everything. Now, is there room for more? I mean, there could be, because if you notice, I haven't talked about Shooter at all, and I kind of don't want to, because for anyone who hasn't seen the movie, it kind of spoils the whole thing with him. But I would say that it would kind of be interesting if they did like a Shooter McGavin spinoff, based off of how he is in this movie, and everything. And like I say, if Adam didn't want to do another Happy Gilmore, they could be a Shooter McGavin spinoff sequel, and everything with him and some different golfers or whatever, if they really wanted to. And does this movie add to the legacy of Adam Sandler's, from the 90s? And I would say it does. I think it could probably even prompt like the younger generation to go back and check out the original Happy Gilmore or Billy Madison, hell, even Bulletproof with Adam Sandler and Damon Wayans. If you've never seen that one, I would say watch that one also, and everything. But yeah, I think it there is some good nostalgia here, and it kind of makes you understand why Adam Sandler is somewhat revered the way he is by a certain generation of people, right? And everything. So I didn't want to go too in depth and too long on this episode, and everything, but I did just want to kind of get behind the microphone and talk a little bit about the movie. And like I say, I would say watch it for yourself, and then go from there. Don't rely on what other people say. Don't even rely on what I said about the movie. I would say just watch it for yourself, and then you decide. And like I said, if you're someone who's never watched the original Happy Gilmore, please watch the original before you watch the sequel, and everything. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this episode. If I had to rate this movie out of five putts, I would give it a solid. As far as entertaining, I would give it a solid 3.5. As far as a sequel, I would probably give it a solid 4. Putts and everything. Yeah. So I'm giving it 2 ratings based off of 2 different things, and everything. And yes, I would recommend this to casual fans, or even even the OG fans of Adam Sandler who probably like, I don't watch none of his movies anymore. Ever since he went to Netflix, I don't watch none of his stuff. If you was an OG Adam Sandler fan, I definitely say you should check this movie out. Even people who kind of not really fans of Adam, I would say still should check it out. But if you didn't watch the first one, definitely watch the first one first before you watch this one. So yeah, that's pretty much it here. Episode 348 is a movie that I'm really looking forward to diving in talking about, because it's something I've kind of wanted to do on the podcast for a long time, and I'm finally getting around to doing it. And I'm talking about Michael Mann's first film, Thief, which came out in 1981. I will be talking about that movie even more so than what I went in talking about this movie. And it is definitely a must watch. It is on MGM Plus for anyone who hasn't, if you've never seen it or barely even heard about it. If you listening to next week's episode, you have time, definitely get a chance, check it out. Like I said, streaming on MGM Plus and everything like that. Like, watch that movie, because yeah, there's a lot about that movie that I'm really excited to talk about on the podcast. I want to thank everyone for listening. Of course, you can follow me all over social media. I'm still on Twitter, not as active, but if you want to follow me there, you can. Either J Movie Talk or the J Giles. I'm still over there. I pretty much more so I'm on Threads, at the J Giles over on Threads, so you can definitely check me out over there. Follow me and everything on Instagram, the J Giles, also JMT Podcast on Instagram and everything like that. I do have a big announcement that I will be making on next week's episode, so that gives you more reason to tune in to next week's episode, because I'm making a big announcement over there as far as something that I will be launching and everything like that. But also move on TikTok. J Movie Talk is on TikTok as well, and also too, of course, on YouTube. Check me out over on YouTube as well. For anyone who's listening on YouTube, definitely comment, like, subscribe, and comment like how you feel about Happy Gilmore 2 down below as well, and everything like that. Again, I want to thank everyone for listening to this episode. I will be back for episode 348, like I said, to talk about 1981's Thief. Until next time, peace.